There tends to be a bit of a myth out there in startup ventures that as long as you have a good idea, all you need to do is find someone with a lot of money who's willing to back your idea and put money and capital funding into your project to get it off the ground. Unfortunately, this is pretty much never the case. If you put yourself in the shoes of an investor, investors are people with a lot of money and they've usually worked hard to create that money. And the last thing they want to do is lose that money. What they're looking to do is to invest that money in reliable assets that are going to build value or help them grow their capital. So when it comes to startup ventures and investment, you're competing with things like property and managed funds. Those things typically are very safe investments for people. They can put their money in and they'll watch their capital grow over time. Um, they're looking for the same thing when it comes to a startup venture. They want to know that this business model that you have is a safe bet and that it's going to get them a return on their investment and pretty quickly. So there are no rich people sitting around with their wallets open waiting to fund the next best idea. What they're looking to fund is a robust commercial model that is already proven, and the only barrier to increasing the capital is to scale. So it's a proven commercial model in the market, and they're looking to put money into that so that they can scale it and grow their capital that way. So an investor wants probability of return, not just a good idea. The four questions that investors have are what could go wrong with this idea? How likely is it that that will go wrong? And what is this project team doing to mitigate those risks? And where's the proof that this business model works? So your job as the founder is to reduce the risk in this project to almost zero, which means that it's almost a no-brainer for an investor to put money into your idea. So funding doesn't fix a missing commercial model, it exposes it faster. So the job of a startup is to prove, firstly, that the market exists. You need to prove that there are people out there that have a problem that your product solves or a strong desire that your product serves. You have to prove that the market will actually pay to solve that problem or to have that desire. Then you need to prove that that revenue is sustainable, that people come and they buy the product, they refer it on to others, and you can see a growing customer base. The only thing left in your way to greater success is scale. And step four, so number one, show the market exists. Number two, show that people will pay. Number three, show that revenue is sustainable and growing. And number four, that the only thing left in your way is scale. And step four is extremely rare, and that's the step that investors are looking for. That's what they're on the hunt for. To give you an example, last October, the government released a significant amount of money to fund certain types of business. I was approached by a lot of young businesses, startups, because I help to write grants on behalf of businesses to apply for government funding. This particular round of funding was called the Small Business Growth Grant, and the eligibility criteria for that grant was to be turning over a minimum of $200,000 every year. I had a lot of young and new businesses coming to me asking if they would be eligible for that grant, and unfortunately, they weren't. Again, the government doesn't want to gamble with public money either. They want to know they're putting money into safe businesses that are going to actually grow the capital, grow the economy out of this funding. So I ended up submitting 23 submissions on behalf of different small businesses across Perth. And they were all turning over more than $200,000 because the government wanted to see that they have a sustainable business model, they have a market, they have a stable client base, and the only thing in their way is funding to grow further. So both the private sector and the government sector are not going to gamble on things that are not a safe bet. So in closing, I guess the message is to understand that there's nobody sitting around with money to invest in a good idea. What they're investing in is a robust commercial model. When I talk about a robust commercial model, I mean you must be able to have you have access to a market that is already paying, and you can show that that market is paying, and that typically the pathway to get there is through strategic partnerships and relationships, people who have access to your market already. So that if you are a startup and you're wondering whether you need to get traction first or whether you need to prove traction. So prove whether you need to prove traction first or attract funding. The answer is you need to prove traction first. Get a sustainable product, prove there's a market, prove people will pay, show that you can get sustainable revenue, and then investors may, at that point, think that you're onto something good and want to come and invest in your idea to see it grow in exchange for equity and capital in your company. I hope that was helpful. Check out the blog for more information.